There is a kind of silence that is not empty. It's a weighted presence in the room. It's the feeling of a question hanging in the air with no answer in sight. It's not the peaceful quiet of a settled evening. It is a loud, ringing absence. The phone lies on the table, dark and still, but your body is not still. There is a tension in your shoulders, a subtle humming anxiety in your chest, a constant, low-level state of waiting. You might tell yourself you're not waiting. You're busy. You're living your life. But your nervous system knows the truth. Every phantom vibration in your pocket, every time you pick up your phone just to check the time, a small part of you is checking for him, for a sign, for a word that will break the tension and let you breathe again. His distance has become more articulate than any conversation you ever had. His lack of words has begun to shape your days, your thoughts, your very perception of yourself. You replay your last interaction. Did you say something wrong? Was your last message too much or not enough? You become a detective of digital crumbs, searching for clues in the ghost of a conversation, trying to decipher a meaning that was never explicitly written. This is the torment of the unspoken. It invites you to fill the void with your own fears, your own insecurities, your own stories. And the story you tell yourself is rarely a kind one. It whispers that you are not important enough for a reply, that he has lost interest, that you have been forgotten. The silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back your deepest anxieties about your own worth. You might find yourself getting angry. A wave of indignation rises. How dare he? How disrespectful? How childish? To simply disappear into this fog of ambiguity. You compose messages in your head, full of righteous anger or cool indifference, only to delete them before they are ever sent. Because you know, on some level, that sending them would be breaking a silent rule. It would show that you care. It would reveal that his silence has, in fact, reached you. And so, you remain quiet too, trapped in a standoff where the only weapon is absence. But this is only the surface story. This is the conscious, painful loop of analysis and emotion. The deeper truth, the one that holds the key to your freedom, lies beneath this surface. It is not about deciphering his motives or winning a silent game. It is about understanding the powerful psychological forces at play, both within him and, more importantly, within you. His distance is not just an action, it is a psychological event. And it becomes louder than words because it is speaking directly to the unconscious parts of your own psyche. This is where we must look, not at the silent phone, but into the hidden architecture of the self. To understand why his distance feels so profoundly significant, we must first look at the concept of the persona, a term Carl Jung used to describe the social mask we all wear. The persona is the version of ourselves we present to the world. It's the competent professional, the funny friend, the cool, laid-back guy. It is a necessary tool for navigating society. But for some, the persona is not just a tool, it becomes a fortress. When a man pulls away into a profound silence, he is often retreating behind a very specific kind of persona, the mask of invulnerability. This is the persona of the man who is unbothered, too busy, or just not a big texter. He presents an image of self-sufficiency and emotional detachment. This mask serves a critical purpose. It protects his ego. The ego, in Jungian terms, is the center of our conscious identity. It's our sense of I. It strives for control, for stability, for a sense of mastery over its environment. And nothing threatens the ego more than vulnerability. To be vulnerable is to risk being hurt, to risk being rejected, to risk losing control. For a man whose ego is particularly sensitive to these threats, perhaps due to past wounds, societal conditioning about masculinity, or a deep-seated fear of intimacy, vulnerability feels like a catastrophic failure. So, when the connection with you begins to deepen, when real emotions come into play, his ego sounds an alarm. The closeness, the expectation, the potential for being truly seen, it all feels like a threat. The risk of saying the wrong thing, of failing to meet your emotional needs, of being overwhelmed by feelings he doesn't know how to manage, becomes unbearable. In response, his psychological defense system kicks in. The simplest, most effective defense is to withdraw, to create distance. The silence is the moat he digs around his castle. The persona of the cool, distant guy is the armor he wears. He is not necessarily doing this to you in a consciously malicious way. He is doing it for himself, to protect his fragile sense of control. His silence is not a message of, "I don't care about you." It is often a desperate, non-verbal scream of, "I can't handle the intensity of what this is becoming." He is protecting himself, not from you, but from his own feelings that you evoke in him. This is why his distance feels so loud. It is the sound of a wall being built. It is the echo of a door being slammed shut, not on you, but on his own vulnerability. He retreats into the silence because in the silence, he doesn't have to perform. He doesn't have to risk failing. He doesn't have to face the messy, unpredictable world of genuine emotional connection. In the silence, his ego feels safe. It is a sterile, controlled environment where he is the master. But it is a lonely and hollow safety. The uncomfortable truth is that the man who uses distance as his primary defense mechanism is often not as strong as his silent persona suggests. In fact, the louder his silence, the more fortified his walls, the more fragile the ego hiding behind them is likely to be. He is not demonstrating power, he is demonstrating fear. Fear of intimacy, fear of inadequacy, fear of being engulfed. His distance is a symptom of his own inner conflict, a battle between his desire for connection and his terror of what that connection might demand of him. And this is where the dynamic becomes so complex. Because your energy, your focus, your constant attempts to understand and bridge that distance are unconsciously perceived by his ego as an assault on its defenses. Every question, every check-in, every gentle probe for reassurance can feel like another stone being thrown against his fortress wall. It reinforces his need to stay hidden, to remain silent. The very thing you do to seek connection is the thing that can push him further into his protective shell. This is the painful paradox of this dynamic. You are not the cause of his withdrawal, but your natural reaction to it can inadvertently fuel the very pattern that is causing you so much pain. The question then shifts. It is no longer, how can I get him to talk? The more profound question becomes, what is it within me that is so powerfully activated by his fortress of silence? This is the moment the journey turns from an obsession with him to a deep inquiry into the self. Why does his silence have this much power? Why does it feel less like an absence and more like a verdict on your worth? The answer lies in the psychological concept of projection. We all project. We unconsciously cast qualities, expectations, and unresolved parts of ourselves onto other people. When a powerful attraction forms, we often project an idealized image onto the other person. Carl Jung called the inner image a man holds of the feminine the anima, and the inner image a woman holds of the masculine the animus. You don't just fall for the man himself. You fall for the way he seems to embody a powerful, unconscious image within you. Perhaps you projected onto him the image of the savior, the one who would finally see you and make you feel secure. Perhaps he represented the confident, decisive masculine energy that you felt you lacked within yourself. You didn't just see him, you saw a promise. You saw the potential for a wholeness you craved. His distance, then, is not just a withdrawal of his presence. It is a violent tearing away of that projection. The screen on which you were playing the movie of your ideal love story has suddenly gone blank. The silence is the stark, white static that replaces the film. And the pain you feel is not just the loss of him, but the loss of that beautiful, promising image. It is the collapse of a future you had already begun to live in your mind. This is where the wound deepens. His silence activates a pre-existing vulnerability within you. For many women, this is the activation of what is often called an abandonment complex. This is not a clinical diagnosis, but a description of a deep, often unconscious fear of being left, of being deemed unworthy and discarded. This wound is usually formed in early life, in moments when a caregiver was emotionally or physically unavailable. A child internalizes this absence not as, my parent is busy or struggling, but as, there is something wrong with me. I am not lovable enough to make them stay. This old, dormant pain lies within the unconscious. When you meet a man and the connection feels profound, that inner child part of you whispers, maybe this is the one. Maybe he will stay. Maybe I am finally worthy. You unconsciously place him in the role of the one who can finally heal that original wound. And then he pulls away. He goes silent. And for your unconscious, it is not just a man in 2024 being distant. It is a catastrophic echo of that original abandonment. The same feeling of worthlessness, the same terror of being alone, the same desperate need to do something, anything, to get the connection back, floods your system. Your rational adult mind knows this is a modern dating situation, but your emotional body is experiencing a primal terror. This is why his silence is so deafening. It is not just his voice that is missing. It is the sound of your own deepest fear being amplified to an unbearable volume. You are not just reacting to his behavior, you are reliving an old trauma. The emotional charge is so high because it is not just about him. It is about every time you have ever felt unseen, left behind, or not good enough. His silence becomes the trigger for a lifetime of accumulated pain. Recognizing this is both terrifying and liberating. It's terrifying because it means the source of the pain is not entirely outside of you. You cannot simply blame him and move on. But it is liberating because it means the solution is also not outside of you. If the pain is being activated within your own psyche, then the power to heal it also resides within you. You can stop frantically trying to get a response from him and start tenderly responding to the wounded part of yourself that is crying out for attention. The focus must shift. You must pull your energy back from him, not as a tactic, but as an act of profound self-care. Imagine all the mental energy you spend analyzing his silence, the hours spent rereading texts, talking to friends, checking his social media. It is a massive drain of your life force. That energy is a sacred resource. It is the fuel for your own growth, your own creativity, your own joy. And right now, it is all being directed outwards, trying to power a connection that has been unplugged at the other end. The first step in reclaiming this energy is to acknowledge the persona you have been wearing in this dynamic. Just as he wears the mask of the invulnerable man, you may be wearing the mask of the understanding woman. The one who is patient, the one who doesn't want to be needy, the one who can tolerate ambiguity and distance because she is cool and secure. This persona is also a defense. It protects you from the shame of admitting how much you care, how much this silence truly hurts. It allows you to maintain a sense of dignity. But beneath this persona of the understanding woman often lies a shadow, the part of ourselves we repress and deny. For the woman who overgives and over-understands, the shadow is often filled with resentment, neediness, and a deep, unexpressed anger. This is the shadow of the good girl who learned that her needs were an inconvenience. She learned to be accommodating, to anticipate others' needs while suppressing her own. She learned that love was conditional on her being easygoing and undemanding. When you play the role of the understanding woman, you are reenacting this old pattern. You are abandoning your own needs in the hope that your goodness will be rewarded with his return. His silence is a powerful invitation to finally meet this shadow, to allow yourself to feel the anger, to acknowledge the deep hurt, to admit, if only to yourself, this is not okay. I do not like this. This hurts me. To stop pretending you are unaffected. Meeting your shadow does not mean becoming a bitter, angry person. It means integrating these denied emotions. It means giving a voice to the part of you that has been silent for too long. When you acknowledge your anger, it no longer has to leak out as passive aggression or build up into a volcanic eruption. When you acknowledge your need for clarity and connection, you can stop accepting situations that offer neither. This integration is the foundation of true self-worth. Self-worth is not something another person can give you. It is something you build by honoring your own feelings, by setting boundaries, and by refusing to participate in dynamics that require you to abandon yourself. A boundary is not a wall you build to punish him. It is a line you draw to protect your own peace. In this case, the boundary might be an internal one. It is the decision to stop analyzing, to stop waiting. It is the commitment to reinvest your energy back into your own life. This is not easy. The habit of focusing on him is strong, almost like an addiction. Your mind will want to go back to the familiar loop of what if and why. The key is to notice when this happens, and gently, but firmly, redirect your attention. When you feel the urge to check his profile, put your phone down and go for a walk. When you find yourself replaying conversations, put on music and dance. When the feeling of anxiety rises in your chest, place a hand on your heart, Breathe deeply and say to yourself, I am here. I am safe. I will not abandon myself. You are, in effect, reparenting the wounded inner part of you. You are giving yourself the consistent presence and reassurance that you were seeking from him. This is the alchemy of turning pain into power. The empty space created by his silence, which once felt like a vacuum of anxiety, can become a sacred container for your own healing and transformation. Fill that space with you. Fill it with new hobbies, with old friends, with work that inspires you, with moments of quiet reflection, with nature, with art, with anything that makes you feel alive and connected to yourself. As you do this, something remarkable begins to happen. His silence starts to lose its power. It begins to fade from a deafening roar to a distant hum. It no longer dictates your emotional state. You are no longer a ship tossed on the waves of his availability. You are the lighthouse, anchored in your own foundation, regardless of the tide. If this reflection names something you have never been able to say out loud, consider writing a single sentence for yourself in a private journal. A sentence that claims your own reality. Something like, my peace is not dependent on his response. This is not for anyone else to see. It is an anchor for you. From this place of centeredness, the question of whether he comes back becomes secondary. It loses its desperate life or death urgency. You begin to realize that the real prize is not his return, but your return to yourself. And here is the final, powerful truth of this dynamic. Your shift in energy is felt. The unconscious is a subtle but powerful field of communication. When you were pouring all your anxious, pleading, analytical energy towards him, he felt it as pressure. It was the energy of need, and it triggered his defense system. But when you withdraw that energy, not as a game, but as a genuine act of self-reclamation, the dynamic changes completely. The pressure is gone. He is left alone in his fortress of silence. At first, his ego might feel relief. Good, it thinks. The siege is over. But then, a new kind of silence descends. Your absence. Before, his silence was filled with the noise of your wanting. Now, it is truly empty. And in that emptiness, he is forced to confront himself. There is no one to blame, no one to react against. There is only the echo of his own choices. He is left alone with the very feelings he was trying to avoid by being silent in the first place. Loneliness, regret, a sense of loss. This is the point where his persona may begin to crack. The mask of the unbothered man becomes heavy and pointless when there is no one left to perform for. It is in this space, the space you created by choosing yourself, that he might finally have the courage to face his own vulnerability. Will he reach out? It is impossible to say, and it is crucial that you do not anchor your healing to that outcome. To do so is to fall back into the old pattern of waiting. Some men will. They will emerge from their silence, often with a message that is tentative, apologetic, or tries to pretend nothing happened. They felt the shift. They felt the loss of your light, and it scared them more than their fear of intimacy. Other men will not. Their fear is too great, their defenses too rigid. They will remain in their fortress, perhaps finding another person to play out the same dynamic with. But in either case, you have already won. If he does not return, you have saved yourself from a relationship that would have been a constant cycle of withdrawal and pursuit, a dynamic that would have slowly eroded your soul. You have honored yourself, healed a deep wound, and emerged stronger and more whole. You are free. And if he does return, he will not be returning to the same woman. He will not find the anxious, waiting girl who was willing to accept crumbs of attention. He will find a woman who is anchored in her own worth. A woman whose life is full, with or without him. A woman who is calm, centered, and whose peace is not for sale. He will find a woman who is willing to connect, but no longer willing to abandon herself to do so. He will have to meet her on new ground, a ground of mutual respect, clarity, and emotional honesty. The choice will then be yours, made not from a place of desperate need, but from a place of sovereign power. You will be able to assess whether he has truly done the work to come out from behind his walls, or if he is just temporarily seeking entry back into your warmth before retreating again. Your newfound inner clarity will be your guide. The journey begins with the painful, ringing silence in an empty room. It moves through the labyrinth of your own psyche, confronting the masks you wear and the shadows you hide. It asks you to retrieve the projections you cast and heal the old wounds that made you so vulnerable. It is a path of turning inward, of reclaiming your energy, of choosing yourself over and over again. His distance became louder than words, because it was meant to be a wake-up call. Not from him, but from your own soul. It was a call to stop looking for your value in the reflection of someone else's eyes, and to finally find it within yourself. The silence was never the message, it was just the trigger for the message you needed to hear from you. My silence is not a game, it is my return to myself. This inner declaration, my silence is not a game, it is my return to myself, is not a single event, but the beginning of a practice. It is the first breath taken after being underwater for too long. And just as the body needs time to reacclimate, your entire being needs time to learn this new way of existence. This is where the healing deepens, moving from the realm of psychological understanding into the very cells of your body. For weeks, perhaps months, your body has been living in a state of high alert. This is the body memory layer of the wound. It's the subtle, constant tension in your jaw, the shallow breaths that never seem to fill your lungs, the knot in your stomach that tightens every time you think of him. Your nervous system has been conditioned to scan the environment for a threat, the threat of ultimate rejection, and its primary signal has been the silence from his phone. This is a physiological reality. Your body has been marinating in stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, keeping you in a fight-or-flight state where the fight is your mental analysis, and the flight is your urge to emotionally run and hide. The return to yourself is, therefore, a somatic journey. It is the conscious process of teaching your body that it is safe now. When you redirect your focus away from him and onto your own inner world, you must also bring that attention into your physical self. Notice, right now, where the weighting lives in your body. Is it a tightness in your throat, a heaviness in your chest, a cold feeling in your hands? Do not try to force it away, simply notice it. Breathe into that space. Imagine your breath as a warm, golden light, moving into that tight, cold area and gently loosening its grip. With each exhale, you are not just releasing air, you are releasing the stored energy of anxiety. You are letting go of the cellular memory of waiting. This is not a one-time fix, it is a practice you return to, moment by moment. When you feel the familiar pang of anxiety, you greet it with breath. You meet the tension with softness. You are telling your body, with every conscious breath, the threat has passed. I am in charge now. I am safe. Over time, you will feel a physical shift, the unclenching in your shoulders as you walk down the street, the moment you realize you have been breathing deeply and slowly without even trying, the return of a healthy appetite, or the ability to sleep through the night without the ghost of a question haunting your dreams. This is the body letting go. This is the tangible proof that you are reclaiming your sovereignty, not just in your mind, but in your very flesh and bone. As your body finds its new equilibrium, you will also find the courage to more deeply integrate your shadow. The good girl, who was willing to be endlessly patient, is now being cared for by a wiser self. And her shadow, the angry, needy part, is invited out of the dungeon. You begin to understand that her anger was never the problem. It was a sacred signal. It was the part of you that knew your worth all along, the part that was furious at seeing you devalue yourself. Now, instead of repressing that anger, you learn to listen to it. It becomes your internal guardian, the fierce protector of your boundaries. When you feel a flash of that old anger, you no longer see it as an ugly emotion. You see it as your intuition saying, "Pay attention. Something here is not aligned with your well-being." And the neediness? You begin to see it differently too. It was never a flaw. It was a compass pointing toward your fundamental human need for connection, reciprocity, and clarity. By shaming and hiding it, you were shaming your own heart's desire for healthy love. As you integrate this shadow, you stop being afraid of your needs. You own them. You learn to say, "Yes, I am a person who needs clear communication. I am a person who needs to feel that my partner is consistently present. These are not flaws. They are my requirements for intimacy." This is the transformation of the shadow from a source of shame into a source of power and self-knowledge. As this inner realignment solidifies, you will begin to notice concrete signs of your freedom. The first sign is often one of quiet neutrality. You'll pick up your phone, see there's no message from him, and feel Nothing. Not a pang of anxiety, not a surge of anger, just a neutral observation. Your emotional state has officially decoupled from his actions. The second sign is the return of your creative life force. That energy you were pouring into him now floods back into you, demanding an outlet. You suddenly have the urge to redecorate your apartment, to sign up for a class, to write that story, to plan a trip. Your world, which had shrunk to the size of a phone screen, expands back into its full, vibrant color. A third sign is a change in your social perception. You start noticing other people again. You might find yourself genuinely laughing at a stranger's joke, or feeling a flicker of attraction for someone new. Your focus is no longer locked. You are available to the world, and the world becomes available to you. You are no longer watching a closed door, waiting for it to open. You have turned around and discovered 100 other doors are already open, leading to new rooms you have yet to explore. And then, just when you feel you have truly arrived in this new, centered place, the universe will often send you a final exam. This is the late practical test. It will come on an ordinary Tuesday morning or a quiet Saturday night. His name will flash on your screen. In that instant, your body will remember. A small jolt of adrenaline, an echo of the old pattern. But this time, it is different. The jolt is not followed by a tidal wave of desperate hope or anxiety. It is followed by a calm, clear space. A pause. In that pause, your new self takes the lead. The old you would have scrambled to reply, crafting the perfect, casual response. The new you simply observes the name on the screen. You breathe. You ask yourself not, what does he want, but what do I want? You check in with your body. Does the thought of engaging feel expansive and light, or does it feel like a heavy, contracting obligation? You listen to the wisdom of your integrated shadow. The guardian part of you asks, is this person capable of meeting my needs for clarity and consistency? Has anything fundamentally changed? His message will likely be low effort, a simple, hey, or was just thinking about you. It is a probe, a toe dipped in the water to see if your energy is still there for the taking. The test is not whether you reply, but how you reply. Your response will come from a place of self-respect, not strategy. It will be calm, polite, and honest, without giving your power away. Perhaps you write back, after an hour or a day, "Hi, hope you're doing well." It is not cold, but it is not warm. It is neutral. It is a mirror, reflecting his own level of effort back at him. It communicates, subtly but clearly, the dynamic has changed. My energy is no longer available on demand. If you want to connect with me, you will need to show up in a different way. You will need to put in the effort to actually build a bridge across the distance you created. He will feel this shift instantly. It is not the angry reaction he might have feared, nor the eager reception he might have hoped for. It is something else entirely, the calm boundary of a woman who knows her own value. The test is not about winning him back. It is about proving to yourself that you will not lose yourself again. Passing the test is the moment you can send that neutral reply, or even choose not to reply at all, and then put your phone down and continue living your full, beautiful life without your peace being disturbed. And so, the journey comes full circle. The silence that once felt like a deafening roar of rejection has transformed. It is now just quiet, a peaceful, empty space that no longer needs to be filled by him. It is the quiet of your own home, where you are safe and at peace. It is the quiet of your own mind, free from the obsessive loops of analysis. This process does not harden your heart. On the contrary, it makes it safer. You have learned to be the fierce and tender guardian of your own inner world. You have not built walls around your heart. You have built a beautiful, well-tended garden around it, with a gate. You are the one who decides who is invited in. And you only open the gate for those who know how to treat the sacred ground with respect, with honesty, and with presence. The ultimate lesson of his distance was never about him at all. It was a curriculum designed by your own soul to teach you the art of presence, your presence with yourself. It was an invitation to stop translating silence and ambiguity and to begin listening to the clear, unwavering voice within, the voice that has been there all along, patiently waiting for you to come home, reminding you that the most profound and reliable love story you will ever experience is the one you build with yourself. The rest is just a beautiful addition, a connection that complements your wholeness, but never becomes the sole source of it. And you will know it when you find it, because it will not feel like a puzzle to be solved. It will feel like peace.